All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Here we go. We're going to talk a little real versus nominal GDP, all right? And I want to start right here. I think this is a really good illustration of what the difference is and why nominal tends to be kind of a poor indicator for us, right? So what this is basically saying here, we got price level and output, right? Price level on our Y, output on our X, very much like a normal supply and demand, right? Price and quantity, right? And we find nominal GDP based off taking the prices of a year times the quantity of whatever you produce in that year, right? So if we took the price level times the quantity, this area, right, this box right here, would represent our year one GDP, right? Now, here's the thing, GDP can grow in two different ways, right? They can grow by price level and it can go by quantity, right? So if you're looking at this, say year two, we have price level that goes up and quantity that goes up. Our GDP in nominal terms looks really big, right? But what real does is it isolates only quantity, right? Prices are deceiving. Right? Just because we have a bigger nominal GDP, it could be because that the prices went up, that we have really high inflation, and that we didn't actually produce any more. Then, right, that we're not really that better off. We're just paying more, right? So what we want to do is really isolate this quantity. If you kind of take out that price, what real GDP does is it actually kind of says, all right, this year two, this box, right, that is our actual growth in real GDP, because we're going to keep our year one prices and we're just going to figure out, well, how much are we producing more, right? And then all of a sudden, this area, right up top, right, this just becomes GDP growth just based off inflation or prices rising, right? So I think this is a really good graph to kind of give us a sense of the difference between real and nominal, right? Real, we isolate, we're actually better off, right, in this quantity production, whereas nominal, we can kind of just figure out, or we can kind of see that it could just be based off prices, all right? So that's kind of just a little start, right? I like this a lot in terms of like that visual of what we're trying to do with real, all right? We're just trying to isolate that one kind of factor of GDP growth, that being quantity, all right? But here we go, we're looking at this table, and I'd kind of copy this down so you can kind of follow along with me as you take notes. So if you need to pause and copy this down, by all means, go ahead, right? But I'm going to find two things here. I'm going to find real, or I'm going to find nominal first, and then I'll find real GDP just based off this table, all right? And this is, say, whatever, any economy, we're only producing two goods, right? We simplify it as much as possible. In this good, or in this economy, we are producing widgets and gizmos because, well, that's all you need. Widgets, gizmos. Don't ask me what they are, right? And then we'll kind of go from there. So first of all, how to calculate nominal GDP. You take the price and quantity of the year that you're trying to find, right? So for 2018, we're taking the prices of 2018 and the quantities of 2018, right? And we're kind of adding those together, right? So for widgets, well, the price is $100, right? And we sold one of them, so 100 times one. And then we go gizmos, $10 a piece, right? And we sold 8 of them, right? So 100 plus 80, and we find out that our nominal GDP for 2018 is $180, and hopefully you can kind of see that. There we go. Right, for 2019, nominal GDP, we take the prices and the quantities of that year, right? So 110 is now the price. We still just sold one, right? Plus $12 is the price, right? Times now selling 10, right? So let's see, 110 plus 120. We find out that our nominal GDP for 2019 is $230, right? And that's all well and good. And actually, while we're here, before I move on to real, there's something that you absolutely need to know that's going to come up over and over again. All right, so kind of just a quick aside while I'm thinking about it. We could find percentage change of nominal GDP or real GDP or anything, right? And you're going to have to calculate this over and over again. So I'd make sure you absolutely know that anytime you want to find percent change, right, the equation is you take the new minus the old divided by the old number times 100, right? So if I wanted to know the percent change in nominal GDP from 2018 to 2019, right, well, I'd find my new is 230, right, minus my old 180 divided by my old 180 times 100, right? So 50 over 180 times 100, and that should get you something like 28%, right? And like I said, anytime they're going to ask you that a whole bunch. What's the percent change? New minus old over old times 100. Get it down, absolutely. All right. Now over here, looking at real GDP. Right now, real GDP is just taking the prices out of it. Right. We want to know this growth, this 28% growth. How much of it was actually just due to the quantity made, right? Taking out this difference in price level, right? That is the factor. So we're going to use 2018 prices. We'd say like, okay, our base year, right, is 2018. And all that's saying is that those are the prices that you'll use, okay? So for 2018, real and nominal are the same. For the base year, real and nominal GDP are the same. All right, so we would know that real GDP is 180. Now for 2019, what we're doing is we're just taking the prices of 2018 times the quantity of 2019. Right? We want to keep prices constant. So price of 2018 times quantity of 2019. All right, trying to isolate over here. All right, so here we go. We got 100 price of 2018 times quantity of 2019 times 1, right? For gizmos, 10, so you'll plus 10 times 10, right? Price of 2018, quantity 2019. So we get 100 plus 100, and we find that our real GDP for 2019 is 200, right? So that means that $30 of this nominal GDP growth is actually just due to price level increase, right? And only 20 of that $50 increase is actually because we're producing more, right? We see that quantity change right here, right? Really important that you understand where that's coming from, okay? Now, from here, like I said, we could take this and find out what's the actual real GDP percent change. What's that growth in percentage-wise? Right? Now, real quick though, the third thing that we need to know is this idea of the deflator. All right, I'm going to do something over here, and that's what these numbers right here are. Right? But to understand the deflator, all this is the price index. We're going to talk about a couple. When we get into inflation, we'll talk about a consumer price index. The GDP deflator is it's just a price level index. It's just finding in this like a unitless number, like how much prices have risen from one year to the next, or from the base year to now. Okay. Now, how you find the deflator? So a GDP deflator is your nominal GDP divided by your real GDP times 100, all right? So if I wanted to find what is the deflator for the year 2019, I'd say, okay, well, the nominal GDP in 2019 is $230, right? The real GDP in 2013 is $200. These are both in dollar terms, so those are gonna cross out, right? That's why it's unitless here. And then we're gonna times that by 100. And what you get is this GDP deflator of 115. Right? Now what we could do with this number is a couple things. One, we could find, okay, well, what's the percentage change? What's inflation look like? Well, that's a percentage change question. New is 115, right? And our old would be like the GDP deflator for 2018, which would be 100, right? 180 divided by 180 times 100. All right, so we could find out that the real GDP, right, that prices is about 15%, right, increase in prices. The other thing we could actually do with that is you're going to see problems like this, all right, where nominal GDP is 5,000, they tell you the deflator is 125, and they want to know what's the real GDP in the year 2000. And all it is just reworking this exact equation, right? If nominal divided by real times 100 equals GDP deflator, right, for you math, right, we can just switch this up and say, well, the nominal GDP divided by the deflator times 100 would equal real, right? So it'd be 5,000 divided by 125 times 100, and that would equal 4,000, and that is actually what your real GDP would be for that year, right? And those are some of the questions that can be asked. Now, whole bunch of stuff there, whole bunch of calculations. Really important that you get this graph kind of in your mind, two different ways to measure GDP, right? Quantity or price level. And that's why nominal kind of can be a bad type of indicator for us, right? And make sure, here we go, let's come with questions tomorrow, right? All that good stuff, and we'll go over this. And hey, make sure you put something away for that rainy day, right? Especially your umbrella.